On my daughter's wedding, her arrogant fiancé tried to humiliate me in front of his colleagues, calling me an unemployed retiree. He had no idea who I really was, or what I had planned for him the next day. When the truth finally hit, everything changed. Before I reveal what really happened, hit subscribe and drop your location in the comments. It helps this story reach more hearts. The hostess led us to a corner table at Ridgeview Terrace, the kind of restaurant where the lighting is soft and the prices are meant to impress. Cole Harrington walked ahead with Elisa's hand tucked proudly in his arm, as if the room belonged to him. I followed behind them, observing the way he smoothed his hair and tugged his sleeves, preparing for a performance only he believed he was starring in. Once seated, Cole didn't wait for the waiter. "So, Mr. Carlton," he began, leaning forward as though dispensing wisdom, "Elise tells me you're between phases right now." I raised an eyebrow. "I'm retired." He nodded sympathetically, the way people do when they encounter something unfortunate but inevitable. "Right. Of course. Must feel strange stepping out of the working world after so long." "It has its adjustments," I said simply. Sure. His smile stretched wider. "People your age often need structure to stay sharp. My dad tried retirement once, nearly lost his mind from boredom." Elise nudged him with her elbow, embarrassed. "Cole, Dad is doing fine." "Of course he is," Cole said quickly. "I'm just saying the job market changes fast. Hard to keep up unless you're in it every day like I am." I unfolded my napkin slowly. "And what exactly do you do, Cole?" His chest lifted a little. "Senior strategy manager at Orion Analytics. Top data solutions firm in the region. High-level work. Fast-paced. Honestly, a lot of older professionals can't keep up with the kind of innovation we push." His tone hovered between bragging and lecturing. I watched Elise glance nervously at me, as if she felt responsible for him. "What field were you in before retirement?" Cole asked, not truly curious, more like checking off a box. "Something traditional?" "Business," I said. He waited for more. I didn't offer it. "Oh," he said, assuming he understood everything now. "Well, no shame in having a simpler background. Not everyone needs to chase corporate ladders." Elisa's face tightened. "Dad wasn't simple." "It's fine," I said softly. The waiter came to take orders. Cole requested the herb-crusted base with saffron pearls. Elise ordered a pasta dish. I asked for the soup and sandwich special. Cole paused, blinking once. "Just that?" "It's enough." "Right," he said kindly. "Everyone has different budgets." Totally understandable. An uncomfortable silence fell between us, thick as wet cloth. Elisa's ears turned pink. I didn't react. "Anyway," Cole said, slicing through his comment as easily as he planned to slice an entree, "Orion is doing big things right now. Predictive modeling, automated systems, supply chain algorithms. It's incredible what we're building. Honestly, our founders just got lucky when they started the place. Wrong time, wrong tools, mediocre resources. It wasn't until people like me joined that the company shifted into real progress." I tapped my spoon lightly against my bowl. "You don't think their experience mattered?" He shrugged. "Experience counts only when it evolves. Otherwise, dead weight." The phrase hit Elise like a slap. I watched her swallow hard. "You have thoughts on that?" he asked. "I do," I said, but left it there. Cole misunderstood the restraint as ignorance. "You know, Mr. Carlton, if you were interested in getting back into a working rhythm, I could connect you with some of our part-time consultant programs. Mostly older folks who want to feel useful again." Elise inhaled sharply. "Cole, it's nothing demeaning," he assured me. "Just basic things. Entry-level contributions. Something to keep your mind active." "Generous of you," I murmured. "I believe in helping the less fortunate," he said proudly. "Besides, appearances matter, especially at the wedding. Important company people will be there, including my boss. Strong impressions can make or break future opportunities." He didn't notice Elise closing her eyes for a moment in quiet mortification. Dinner moved on, each of Cole's comments polishing his ego to a blinding shine. He spoke about his pending promotion, his strategic genius, his six-figure potential by age 32 if all goes well. The arrogance wasn't just loud. It was embedded, the kind that came from someone who had never once considered he could be wrong about another human being. When the plates were cleared, Cole leaned back with satisfaction. "Mr. Carlton, I genuinely admire how positive you seem despite everything." "Everything?" I asked. "Well," he hesitated. "Retirement before you were ready. Modest living arrangements. Smaller lifestyle goals. Not judging, of course. You've clearly made peace with it." "I see," I said softly. He patted my shoulder as though consoling me. "I'm glad Elise has you. And don't worry, your situation won't reflect poorly on us at the wedding." Something inside Elise cracked. She covered her mouth and looked away, her shoulders stiff with embarrassment and something deeper, disappointment. "Cole," she whispered, "you don't hear yourself." He blinked innocently. "What?" "I'm being supportive." I stood slowly. "Thank you both for dinner." Elise rose with me. "Dad, I'm going to get some air," I said. "I'll meet you at the car." As I stepped outside, the city air felt strangely sweet. Not because of what happened, but because of what was coming. Cole believed I was a washed-up retiree. Believed I was irrelevant. Believed he understood my worth. He had no idea I was a co-founder of the same company he worshipped. No idea that the man he bragged about impressing tomorrow wasn't just my former colleague, but my closest friend and partner of 3 decades. No idea that his entire future would tilt on one simple moment. And when that moment arrived, it wouldn't be loud. It would be devastating. The morning after that uncomfortable dinner, I stood at my kitchen counter with a mug of coffee, replaying every word Cole had said the night before. The arrogance, the easy condescension, the assumptions he tossed around like confetti. None of it surprised me anymore. But Elisa's face, the way she'd shrunk into herself each time he spoke down to me, that lingered longer than anything else. She loved him, and love has a way of softening a person's vision. But even she couldn't pretend he had treated me with respect. A car door slammed outside. I peeked through the window and saw Elise stepping out of Cole's sedan, carrying a cream-colored envelope. Cole followed behind her, adjusting his suit jacket, scanning my modest home with the same faint judgment he'd shown the restaurant menu the night before. I opened the door before they knocked. "Dad," Elise said, forcing a bright smile. "We brought the wedding invitations. You're the first to see them." Cole offered the envelope with exaggerated graciousness. "We wanted to give you the honor." I opened it carefully. Lakeshore Ballroom. Gold foil lettering. A venue chosen to impress all the right people. "It's beautiful," I said genuinely. "Very elegant." "Elise chose a script," Cole added, though he seemed more interested in monitoring my reaction. "The guest list is exclusive. My boss will attend, along with several executive figures from Orion. My professional future could be shaped by how well this event goes." "I'm sure it will be memorable," I replied. That answer didn't land the way he wanted. He cleared his throat. "Mr. Carlton, I'd like to discuss your attire for the wedding." He delivered the word attire, as though it carried structural importance for the ceremony itself. "My boss is extremely observant. First impressions matter. I want everything to reflect well on the family." Elise's jaw tightened, but she didn't interrupt. "I have a suit," I said calmly. "I'm sure you do," he replied quickly. "But perhaps something updated, professional, discreet. Nothing too bold, of course. Just enough sophistication to show respect for the event. Walter Klein notices these things." A curious comment, especially considering Walter had seen me in sweat-stained t-shirts while we built Orion's earliest prototypes in a cramped warehouse. But Cole didn't know that. He assumed I needed polishing. "We can shop together," Elise said gently. "I don't mind helping." "That's very thoughtful," I said to her, ignoring Cole's satisfied nod. We moved into the living room. Cole looked around again, his eyes landing on the simple furniture, the framed nature photographs, the modest bookshelves. To him, this house was proof of every assumption he'd made about my life. "Cozy," he said with a smile that was supposed to be kind but wasn't. "It's nice to see someone embrace simplicity." My daughter's lips parted slightly, like she wanted to object, but couldn't find the words. "Cole," she said finally, "can we go show him the garden?" He didn't notice the strain in her voice. "Sure," he said easily. Elise led me through the sliding glass door to the backyard. Rows of tomatoes, basil, and peppers stretched neatly behind the house. She used to help me plant these when she was little. She ran her fingertips across a basil leaf, then turned to me with worry etched across her face. "Dad," she whispered, "what are you planning? What makes you think I'm planning anything?" I asked gently. "Because I know you," she said. "And last night you were quiet. Too quiet. You only get that way when you're thinking. Really thinking." I rested my hands on the back of the garden bench. "Elise, I'm not out to hurt anyone." "Then what are you doing?" "I'm letting the truth unfold," I said. "Your fiancé has strong opinions about who deserves respect. I want to see how he behaves when the whole picture becomes clear." Her eyes softened with something like fear and understanding mixed together. "Why don't you just tell him who you are?" "Has he ever asked?" I asked. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. "No, he hadn't. He assumes," I continued. "He sees an older man, a simple house, a modest lifestyle, and thinks he understands everything. But character isn't revealed when things are easy. It's revealed when people think they don't have to try." Elise looked through the window at Cole, who was inside studying the seating chart she'd left on the table. His brows furrowed in concentration, clearly strategizing where to place himself and where to place others. "Dad," she whispered, "he's insecure? That's why he acts like this." "Insecurity doesn't excuse disrespect." "I know," she murmured, "but please don't destroy him." "I'm not trying to destroy him," I said softly, "but I want you to have the full picture before you commit your life to someone. You deserve clarity." Her shoulders sagged. "What happens when he finds out?" "That," I said, "depends entirely on him." She shook her head slowly. "He's going to hate you." "Probably," I admitted, "but the real question is whether he'll hate himself for how he treated me." We re-entered the house just as Cole finished rearranging the seating chart. He looked up, unaware of the emotional weight that had been swirling around him outside. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Just discussing details." Elise said. Cole checked his watch. "We should get going. I have a meeting with the Western Region team. Deadlines don't wait." He walked toward the door, with Elise trailing behind. I followed him out. At the car, he paused and turned toward me. "Mr. Carlton," he said, "I hope you understand that I only want the wedding to be perfect. That's why I'm helping you with things like your suit. It's not criticism. It's guidance." "I appreciate it," I said evenly. "Good," he said, relieved to have the final word. "Tomorrow's rehearsal will be important. Please try not to feel overwhelmed." Elise flinched. "I'll manage," I said. They left, and the street grew quiet again. Inside, I walked into my study and closed the door. The plaques, the patent awards, the stack of early Orion prototypes, the framed photo of me and Walter in that first warehouse, smiling through exhaustion. Cole thought I was dead weight. Tomorrow, when the rehearsal crowd gathered, he'd start to learn the truth, and the wedding day would finish the lesson. The rehearsal began just before sunset, the Willowbrook Chapel glowing with soft gold lights as musicians tested harmonies. Guests filled the pews with easy conversation, but underneath the laughter was a current of anticipation. Weddings always carry several storylines, some visible, some waiting to erupt. Cole believed he was walking into a night crafted around him, a stage designed to polish his professional image. In a way, he was right, just not in the way he imagined. I entered quietly and stood near the back, watching Elise greet relatives with a warm smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Her maid of honor fussed with her hair, and she allowed it, though her attention kept drifting toward the entrance. She was waiting for Cole, waiting for the storm. He arrived as if stepping into a spotlight. His suit jacket was sharp, his grin practiced, his confidence radiating in a thick wave that immediately drew the attention of his co-workers. They crowded around him like satellites orbiting their chosen sun, hungry for the glow of his rising status. Cole thrived under their admiration. When he spotted me, He lifted a hand dramatically. Mr. Carlton, glad to see you made it. Looks like you're holding up just fine. A few co-workers chuckled politely, though they weren't sure why. I manage, I said, meeting his eyes calmly. Cole motioned for the group to gather. Everyone, this is Elisa's father. He's retired now, living the quiet life. Lucky guy. No stress, no deadlines. His voice had the bright, brittle tone of someone expecting applause. Instead, he got polite nods. A few co-workers murmured polite greetings. Most were more interested in Cole himself. He interpreted this lack of interest as evidence that my presence held no significance. One more assumption added to the growing list. The officiant called us forward. Elise appeared at my side, sliding her arm through mine with a mixture of love and tension. "You okay?" she whispered. "Perfectly," I said, as we walked down the aisle for the practice run. I felt her trembling slightly, but she wasn't afraid of the ceremony. She was afraid of what her future husband might become when the facade crumbled. At the altar, Cole watched us with a smile, but there was a flicker in his gaze, not affection, but calculation. He was measuring how the rehearsal looked to others, how it fit the image he'd been building. Elisa's hand tightened on mine, as I placed hers gently into his. The officiant walked us through the motions. Cole kept glancing at the pews, especially where his colleague sat. Every gesture he made was deliberate, straight posture, polished expression, confident nods. He was performing not for Elise, but for spectators. After we ran the ceremony twice, the officiant dismissed everyone to the ballroom for the rehearsal dinner. The soft scatter of laughter and music drifted to the hall as guests settled in. I positioned myself off to the side, choosing a small round table near the windows. I wanted to observe. Cole, on the other hand, wanted to be seen. He floated from group to group, greeting guests with the exuberance of a politician campaigning for admiration. "Tomorrow's going to be incredible," I heard him saying loudly. "A lot of important people will be here, my boss included. Big opportunity for networking." Networking. He said it like a sacred ritual. His colleagues laughed at his jokes and nodded at his stories. They loved the rising star persona. He wore like a made-to-order suit, and Cole loved being adored by them. He eventually turned toward me, bringing a few co-workers along. "Mr. Carlton," he said with a grin, "why don't you join us for a drink?" "I'm fine here," I said. "Oh, come on," he insisted, clapping my shoulder with a familiarity he hadn't earned. "You shouldn't sit alone. Besides, some of the team want to meet Elisa's family." The co-workers nodded politely. I stood, mostly to keep Elise from worrying. Cole gestured toward me. This man is a classic example of old-school values, very different from the world we operate in now. A co-worker smiled awkwardly. "What did you do before retirement?" "Business," I said simply. Cole answered for me. He kept things simple. Nothing in the corporate arena. Nothing technical. But he's a good man. Just from a different era. Different era. Old school. Not relevant. I felt the words slide over me. Not painful. Not irritating. Just predictable. Cole continued, growing more boastful. "My generation has to push boundaries. We're the innovators. Companies like Orion need young direction. Fresh energy. People who think fast." One co-worker asked him about the founders. Cole shrugged. They were lucky. Right place, right time. Their early ideas were outdated before they even launched. Honestly, the company only became successful once modern professionals, like us, came in. I watched the reflection in the window as he said it. My face stayed still, but inside something settled deeper. A final, cold confirmation. Elise approached then, lightly touching my arm. "Dad, can I talk to you?" Cole waved her off. "We're just discussing the industry. He's learning a lot." "No," Elise said, sharper this time. "Dad doesn't need to learn anything from you." Cole blinked, startled. "I mean, yes," she said softly, "you did." Several co-workers fell silent. Elise guided me a few steps away. "How much more of this do you need?" she whispered. "He's showing you who he is." "I need to see how he handles tomorrow," I said. "That's the real test." She looked toward Cole, who stood confused, maybe even worried. Dad, be careful. I will, I said, but she misunderstood. I wasn't worried about me. I was worried about him. The moment ended when Cole called across the room. Elise, sweetheart, we need to finalize seating arrangements with the coordinator. She walked back to him, composed but tense. As I stood alone again, Walter sent me a text. Excited to meet your future son-in-law tomorrow. Derek speaks highly of him. I smiled. Walter always did have a sense of humor, even when he didn't know it. Because tomorrow, when Cole introduced me to Orion's co-founder, my partner, my closest friend, he would believe he was elevating himself. But in reality, he'd be revealing himself. And nothing about his assumptions would survive what came next. The night before the wedding, the city felt strangely quiet. I walked the length of my living room. Checking each detail of the plan, I kept hidden behind simplicity. My suit for tomorrow hung neatly on the closet door, a charcoal, perfectly tailored piece that fit neither extravagance nor modesty. It simply commanded presence. Next to it, resting in a velvet box, lay the cufflinks, the original Orion insignia from our 5th anniversary as a company. Walter had designed them himself, insisting all founding members wear them on special occasions. I had worn them only twice. Tomorrow would be the 3rd. On my desk sat the certified check I'd requested 2 days earlier. $50,000, neatly typed, signed with care. A wedding gift for Elise, yes. But also a truth Cole could not ignore. Arrogance bends easily under the weight of undeniable reality. I sat in my study, surrounded by the quiet hum of memories. Photos on the wall showed decades of work with Walter. The first office, barely bigger than a garage. The first successful prototype of our predictive engine. The awards we never sought but accepted anyway. All of it built long before people like Cole arrived, believing success came from their brilliance rather than foundations laid by hands they'd never bothered to acknowledge. My phone buzzed. A message from Elise. Dad, please don't make tomorrow harder than it needs to be. I stared at the screen for a long moment before replying. Tomorrow will be exactly what it needs to be. She didn't answer. I turned off the lamp and headed to bed, the city lights flickering through the blinds like distant signals. Tomorrow wouldn't be loud. Truth rarely is, but it would be unmistakable. The next morning, I woke before my alarm. The air felt crisp, purposeful. I dressed carefully, steady hands fastening each button. When I opened the velvet box and clipped the Orion cufflinks into place, my reflection finally looked like someone Cole had never met, but should have. At the hotel, the wedding preparations were already underway. Staff hurried between rooms. Floors adjusted arrangements. Musicians rehearsed snippets of melodies that drifted to the halls like airy promises. The Willowbrook ballroom shimmered with chandeliers, each one scattering light across the polished floors. I made my way to the suite, where families gathered before the ceremony. People greeted me warmly, asking about Elise, commenting on how joyful she must be. I answered each with polite honesty. She was joyful, yes, but torn. Torn between love and truth, between hope and a heaviness that inevitably comes when illusions crack. The door opened again, and Cole entered with the confidence of a man who believed every detail was falling perfectly into place. His tuxedo was immaculate, his hair perfectly styled. The moment he saw me, he paused, not out of admiration, out of surprise. He hadn't expected me to look, well, composed, distinguished, everything he hadn't attributed to me. You clean up well, Mr. Carlton, he said lightly. Did Elise help you pick the suit? No, I replied. I managed on my own. Cole nodded, though something uneasy flickered behind his eyes before he smothered it beneath forced charm. He moved around the room, greeting guests, shaking hands, throwing charismatic smiles like confetti. Everything about him said he believed today was a stage for his best performance. When the wedding coordinator announced that guests were beginning to take their seats, Cole straightened his jacket and approached me again. My boss should be here soon, he said with excitement barely hidden beneath professionalism. He's one of the most respected leaders in the field. When you meet him, just relax. Don't feel pressured. He appreciates humble sincerity. Good to know, I said. You like him, Cole continued, oblivious. He built Orion into what it is. Incredible strategist. Respects ambition. Notices excellence. His smile stretched a little too wide. I want him to see our families as strong and unified. It could open doors for me later. I nodded. Then I'm sure he'll pay close attention. The ceremony was moments away when the doors opened again, and in stepped Walter, broad-shouldered, graying at the temples, impeccably dressed but never flashy. He carried the kind of authority that didn't need to be announced. The air shifted the moment he entered, and several of Cole's co-workers straightened instinctively. Cole lit up. He hurried across the room. "Mr. Klein, I'm honored you came." Walter smiled warmly. "Wouldn't miss it." I remained where I was, knowing exactly how the next minute would unfold. Walter scanned the room with the polite curiosity of someone trying to place unfamiliar faces. His gaze passed over me once, then paused, returning with sharper focus. Recognition flashed in his eyes like lightning splitting a quiet sky. "Porter," he breathed. Cole laughed, not understanding. Yes, that's Elisa's father. He's retired." Walter's entire expression changed. "Retired? Porter, what are you doing over there? Come here." He strode across the room, ignoring Cole completely, and pulled me into a firm embrace. "Look at you. I should have known. Those cufflinks. How many years has it been?" "Too many," I said softly. Behind us, a silence fell heavy and sudden. Cole's smile shattered, confusion washing over him like cold water. "Aye, Mr. Klein," he stammered. "You know him?" Walter turned sharply. "Know him? Cole, this is Porter Carlton, the co-founder of Orion, my business partner for decades. The reason you even have a job." The room froze. Cole went pale. His co-workers stared at him with dawning horror. Walter looked between us, his tone shifting into something far more serious. "Cole, you never told me your fiancé's father was Porter." Because I didn't know," Cole whispered. Walter's disbelief was palpable. "How? Porter has been the backbone of this company since the day it started. Every system you brag about, you've been using his designs." Cole staggered a half-step backward, eyes darting between Walter and me as the truth detonated inside him, piece by piece. "You mean," he whispered, voice cracking, "you're not retired?" "I am," I said calmly, "by choice." His knees looked as though they might buckle. Walter wasn't finished. "Cole, I think you and I need to talk. But not now. Right now you need to prepare for your wedding." Cole swallowed hard, face drained of all color. When he looked at me, he didn't see Elisa's father anymore. He saw the man whose existence unraveled every assumption he had proudly displayed for months. The musicians began to play. Guests were taking their seats. The ceremony was seconds away. Cole stood trembling in the doorway, speechless, stripped of certainty. The lesson had begun. The doors to the chapel opened fully now, music rising in soft waves from the string ensemble. Guests whispered excitedly, unaware of the quiet explosion that had just taken place behind them. Cole stood frozen near the threshold, his expression a cracked mask of disbelief. The confident young man from yesterday had vanished. In his place stood someone stripped bare, struggling to understand how everything he'd assumed could be so catastrophically wrong. Elise approached slowly, her wedding gown trailing behind her like a whisper of hope and worry intertwined. "Cole," she said softly, "they're ready for us." He turned toward her, but his eyes flicked to me with something between shame and panic. "Elise, I—" His voice faltered. He didn't know where to begin. Elise glanced at me, then at Walter, whose stern expression had not softened. She took a steady breath. "Whatever this is," she murmured, "it waits until after." Cole swallowed hard and nodded, but his shoulders sagged with the weight of truth. He could not escape. As Elise and I stepped to the back of the aisle, the guests rose. People smiled warmly at her, admiring her elegance, unaware of the tension vibrating beneath her skin. She looped her arm through mine, and I felt her trembling slightly. "Dad," she whispered, is this the moment you wanted?" "No," I said gently. "The moment I wanted is coming. This is just the beginning." She exhaled shakily, lips pressed together and the music swelled. Walking her down the aisle was a memory I wanted to hold without complication. For those few steps, I pushed everything else aside. The betrayal, the arrogance, the impending reckoning, and focused only on her. My daughter, my pride, my heart. She moved with grace, though the corners of her eyes glistened with emotion. Guests admired her dress, her smile, her presence. They didn't notice Cole at the altar, pale and stiff, stealing glances at Walter and me with growing dread. He looked like a man waiting for a verdict that had already begun writing itself. When Elise and I reached the altar, I placed her hand into his. His fingers were ice cold. "Take care of her," I whispered. He nodded, barely able to speak. "We will continue," the officiant said, sensing unease but choosing professionalism over curiosity. The ceremony unfolded with soft candlelight and gentle vows. Elise spoke clearly, voice trembling only once. Cole tried to steady himself, but each vow caught in his throat as though the words scraped against guilt on their way out. When he said, "I do," the words sounded like a plea for forgiveness rather than a declaration of love. By the time the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Cole's face was flushed with emotion. Some love, some fear, some realization. He kissed Elise gently, but his eyes flicked toward me again, as though checking whether mercy still existed. As guests applauded, I stepped aside, giving the couple space. Walter approached me quietly. "Porter," he murmured, "I didn't know you were coming as a simple guest. I wanted to see how he treated people," I said. Walter nodded, the weight of my words settling into him like stone. And now he must understand every choice has a cost. The receiving line formed. Guests approached the couple with congratulations. Elise smiled genuinely, grateful for the supportive faces. Cole forced a pleasant expression, but panic simmered beneath it. Every time someone approached him from Orion, he flinched slightly, fearing they already knew what he had said about the founders, about dead weight, about lucky old men. Walter moved next in the line, and Cole straightened instinctively. "Mr. Klein," he said softly, "thank you for coming." Walter offered a polite smile, thin, controlled. "Congratulations. You've married a remarkable woman." "Thank you," Cole whispered, unable to maintain eye contact. Walter shook Elisa's hand warmly. When he passed me, he murmured, "What do you want from today?" "Truth," I said. "The rest will follow." The ballroom reception hall glowed with chandeliers and clusters of floral arrangements. Guests filled the space with applause as the couple entered. The celebration began its elegant rhythm. Champagne clinking, soft music. Guests mingling in slow arcs of conversation. Cole stayed close to Elise at first, as though needing her presence to anchor him. But eventually, fearing he was neglecting his professional obligations, he drifted toward Walter again, nervous energy radiating off him. I followed at a distance, standing near the bar. As Elise greeted relatives, Walter addressed Cole with measured calm. "We'll have a proper conversation later," he said. "For now, enjoy your wedding." Cole nodded vigorously. "Of course. Thank you, sir." But Walter's tone was not one of celebration. It was a tone of an executive preparing to evaluate something deeply problematic. Elise approached me then, her eyes searching mine. "Dad, is he going to lose his job?" "That depends entirely on how he chooses to handle the truth," I said. She looked toward Cole, her expression torn. "He's terrified. That means he understands something now that he didn't yesterday." She exhaled. "Is that what you wanted?" "No," I said quietly. "What I wanted was for him to see you and me. Clearly, what happens next is his choice." The band began playing the couple's first dance song. Elise took Cole's hand, and for a moment, under the soft glow of the lights, they moved together with genuine warmth. Cole rested his forehead against hers, whispering something I couldn't hear. She nodded softly, eyes closed. It was the first time I'd seen him look humbled. After the dance, the guests returned to conversations. Plates of food were served, champagne poured, laughter blooming again. That was when I took out the velvet envelope. I approached the sweetheart table and placed it in front of Elise. "A gift for you both," I said. Cole looked at it with dread, as though expecting another revelation. Elise opened it with slow hands. Her breath caught. Dad. Cole stared speechless at the $50,000 check. For your first home, I said gently. Use it wisely. Guests nearby gasped softly. It was impossible not to notice. Cole's voice cracked. Mr. Carlton? Porter? He couldn't finish. Elise squeezed his hand, tears in her eyes. He looked around the room, the respect, the whispers, the shifting perception. For the first time in his adult life, he seemed to understand that status meant nothing without humility. And for the first time, I saw in his face not arrogance, not fear, but the beginnings of recognition. What happened next would determine everything. The ballroom, moments earlier alive with music and laughter, had quieted into a low hum of whispers after Elise unfolded the check. People tried not to stare, but they did. First at the check, then at Cole, then at me. In a room full of polished surfaces and confident faces, nothing was shinier than the truth, and nothing made people more uncomfortable. Cole stared at the check as if it might burn straight through the tablecloth. His fingers twitched toward it but stopped short, afraid to touch something that contradicted everything he had assumed. 50,000, he whispered. For your future, I said simply. Elise clutched the envelope to her chest, eyes shimmering with gratitude and confusion. Dad, this is too much. It's appropriate, I replied. A daughter deserves a good start. Cole swallowed hard, and for the first time since I'd met him, ego wasn't holding him upright. Shock was. His co-workers nearby exchanged looks, murmuring quietly. This wasn't a man marrying into humble simplicity. This was something else. Something he didn't understand yet. He stood suddenly, almost knocking over his chair. Porter? Mr. Carlton, I need to speak with you. Please. Elise touched his arm. Cole. Please, he repeated, voice cracking. I gestured to the balcony outside the ballroom. If truth required a private space, so be it. We stepped into the cool evening air. The sounds of the party muffled behind the glass doors. Cole paced twice, running both hands through his hair, before turning to me with wide, frantic eyes. Why didn't you tell me? He blurted. Tell you what? I asked quietly. He stared at me, incredulous. That you're the co-founder of Orion. That you built the entire company. That everything I've been bragging about, every system, every program, comes from your work. Would it have changed how you spoke to me? I asked. His jaw clenched. Yes. And that, I said gently, is why I didn't tell you. He staggered back a step, as though the words struck him physically. I wasn't trying to hurt you. I just thought. He stopped, the sentence collapsing under its own weight. He pressed a trembling hand against the railing. I thought you were just average. Just Elise's father, I said. Yes, he whispered. I didn't mean disrespect. I didn't know. That's the problem, I said. You didn't know because you didn't ask. You assumed, and your assumptions guided how you treated me. Cole shut his eyes tightly, shoulders drawn up with tension. I was stupid. No, I said, stupidity is harmless. This was arrogance. He winced at the word, but didn't argue. That, at least, was progress. What's going to happen at work? He asked, voice shaking. The question wasn't selfish so much as terrified. He realized now that his behavior wasn't a dinner embarrassment. It might cost him everything. That depends on how you move forward, I said. Walter will speak with you. I won't interfere. He nodded slowly, absorbing the weight of that promise. I'm sorry, he whispered. Really, I've never felt this ashamed. Good, I said. Shame can be the beginning of growth. He didn't respond. Instead, he let out a breath so long it seemed to drain the arrogance right out of him. We returned inside. Elise hurried toward us. Anxiety etched across her face. Are you okay? Cole nodded, but his eyes were glassy. We talked. She looked at me. I nodded once. Later, during the father-daughter dance, the room softened again. Elise's head rested on my shoulder. Dad, she whispered, I'm scared. Of Cole. I asked, of everything. I held her gently. Your life isn't determined by today. It's shaped by the choices you and Cole make from here. She closed her eyes. Do you think he can change? I think, I said carefully, he's finally aware he must. Across the room, Cole watched us dance. Not with jealousy, not with resentment, but with an expression I hadn't seen before, humility. His hands were folded, his posture slumped. For once, he looked like a man who understood he was not the center of the world. After the dance, Walter approached him. This time Cole didn't straighten himself or force a confident smile. He stood small, almost boyish, waiting for the blow. "We'll speak Monday morning," Walter said quietly. "Bring honesty and be ready for consequences." "Yes, sir," Cole whispered. Walter's gaze softened just slightly. "You married a good woman today. Don't waste that." Cole nodded, throat tightening. "I won't." Dinner was served, though hardly anyone cared by that point. Conversations hummed in pockets, about the wedding, about the check, about the revelation. Most tried not to stare at me. A few whispered guesses. Some pieced together details. But none of that mattered. What mattered was what Cole would choose next. He eventually approached me again, alone, hands trembling slightly. "Porter, may I ask something?" "Go ahead." "Can I earn your respect?" His voice cracked. It wasn't dramatic. It was honest. Not because of the company. Not because of a lease. Just because. "You will," I said, "if your actions reflect the humility you felt today." He nodded firmly. "They will." Elise joined us, slipping her hand into his. Her eyes were searching his face, trying to read him. Cole looked down at her with something new. Something I hoped was sincerity shaped by truth, not fear. "You have a good father," he told her, voice steadying. "A better man than I knew." She squeezed his hand. As the night wound down and guests began leaving, I stepped outside to breathe the cool air. The wedding had been beautiful, chaotic, painful, healing, everything at once. Elise came outside to stand next to me. "Dad," she murmured, leaning against my arm. "Thank you." "For what?" I asked. "For letting the truth come out naturally, and for not destroying him, even though you could have." The wind rustled her veil gently. I looked at her, my daughter who had grown into a woman with strength, compassion, and remarkable clarity. "I didn't want destruction," I said softly. "I wanted understanding." Behind us, through the glass doors, Cole watched us from across the ballroom. Silent, humbled, changed. Or at least, beginning to change. It was only the start. What came next would reveal whether the lesson had taken root. The morning after the wedding felt strangely quiet, as if the city itself were holding its breath. I sat in my kitchen, the sunlight stretching across the counter, while I brewed coffee. My suit jacket from the night before hung neatly over a chair, the Orion cufflinks glinting faintly. Silent witnesses to the chaos they'd helped ignite. Elise texted me just after 9. "We're okay." Cole's been quiet. "Processing, I think. Thank you for last night, for everything." I replied simply, "I love you. I'm here for whatever comes next." I didn't expect to hear from Cole so soon, but around 10, my phone rang. His name appeared on the screen, the uncertainty in his caller ID almost palpable. "Porter?" His voice was cautious, stripped of the confidence he usually wrapped himself in. Could we talk?" I agreed, and half an hour later, he was standing on my porch, hands shoved into his pockets, shoulders slumped like someone carrying his own weight for the first time. I stepped aside, letting him in. He didn't speak until we were both seated at the kitchen table. "I didn't sleep last night," he began. "Understandable." He nodded, eyes fixed on his hands. "I don't know how to make sense of any of it. The company, everything I said to you." His voice faltered. "You didn't deserve any of that." I studied him quietly. He wasn't performing. He wasn't angling for pity. He was unraveling the layers of arrogance he'd built his identity on. "What do you want from this conversation, Cole?" I asked softly. He exhaled slowly, as if the breath had been trapped for hours. "I want to learn. I want to understand what kind of man I'm supposed to be now that I know what my behavior really looks like." "A good start, I thought," he continued. "When you gave that check to Elise, I realized something. You weren't just helping her. You were showing what real stability looks like, what real generosity is." His eyes lifted to meet mine. Not the empty kind I pretended to show when I offered you career advice. His own words stung him as he said them. You measured worth by surface, I said, and surfaces lie. He nodded slowly, just like I lied about understanding people. I poured him a cup of coffee, and he accepted it with both hands, as if acknowledging the gesture meant something more now. I want to fix things, he said, but I know I can't just say sorry and expect everything to reset. His voice was steadier now, more grounded. Elise deserves someone better than who I was yesterday. And who do you think you were yesterday? I asked. He swallowed hard. Someone who admired success and looked down on humility. Someone who mistook confidence for character. Someone who thought his job title made him important. I nodded once. Awareness is a first step. He leaned back, breathing deeply. I know Walter's going to be tough on me, and I deserve that. But if I lose a job, I want it to be because I wasn't good enough professionally, not because I disrespected the man who built the very company I work for. That may be the first truly mature thing you said to me, I replied. He gave a faint, broken laugh. Elise says growing up is uncomfortable. She's right. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded sheet of paper, his written vows. He flattened it against the table. I wrote these because I believed every word. But I also believed the world worked on a ladder, people above, people below. Yesterday showed me how wrong that worldview is. He paused, studying the handwriting like it belonged to someone else. I don't want to be a man who treats people based on where I think they stand. I want to be someone Elise is proud of, someone you might eventually trust. His voice cracked, and he looked away. I don't know if that's possible. It's possible, I said quietly, but rebuilding trust isn't immediate. It's consistency. He nodded, absorbing each word as if they were directions out of a maze. After a long silence, he asked, How do you judge character, Porter? Really judge it? I considered him for a moment before answering. I look for humility, I said. Not weakness, humility. Awareness of flaws. Capacity for growth. Accountability. And how someone treats a stranger when they think that stranger can offer them nothing in return. He exhaled again, slower this time. Then I failed on almost every point. And now you can begin on every point. He closed his eyes briefly, grounding himself. We spoke for over an hour, and when he finally stood to leave, he did so with a steadiness I hadn't seen in him before. On his way out, he stopped at the door. Porter, is there anything I could do today to start fixing what I broke? Take care of Elise, I said. Listen to her. Be her partner, not her performance. He nodded. I will. After he left, I stayed at the table a long while, thinking. I wasn't naive. Transformation didn't happen overnight, but sometimes a single day could change the direction of a life. Later that afternoon, Elise visited. She sat on the couch, tucking her legs under her like she had as a child. He came home different, she said softly. Scared, honest, quiet. Quiet can be good, I replied. She leaned her head on my shoulder. Dad, did you mean to teach him this lesson? I meant to give him the opportunity to learn it, I said. Whether he would take it, that was always his choice. Her fingers played with the edge of her sleeve. Do you think it will be okay? That depends, I said. Not on his job, on his willingness to keep growing even after the fear fades. She nodded, resting against me. That evening, Cole texted me. Thank you for talking with me. I'll work to be better. For Elise, for myself. One day, I hope I can earn your respect the right way. A small step, but a real one. Tomorrow would test him even more. Monday always did.